to be here with you, Charlie.
Oh, perfect. Well, happy Friday. Now, the question that I ask everybody is how do you like your coffee in the morning?
So I have become a coffee drinker over the last few years. Before that, I wasn't that big a coffee drinker. And given that I was more a tea drinker coming from the Indian subcontinent, chai, I like my coffee still with milk. So it is, however, I've graduated from I started with lattes. Now I actually like what's called cortado. I'm making my way up to maybe the black coffee, the drink of the entrepreneurs.
Beautiful, cortado, lovely. What was the shift? What made you switch over from tea, from chai to coffee?
It's a good question. Actually, over the last 3, 4 years, as I've embarked on this journey of really trying to find what I would like to do, I've also incorporated a lot of things into my daily practice in terms of a wellness practice. So I still have my morning tea. That's what I do first. Then after that, do a little bit of wellness routine, yoga, meditation, things like that. And before I start my day, that's when is the coffee time. So now I've already had a cup of tea. I actually wanted to do something different, and that's where a coffee kicked in, and that's how coffee became part of my routine over the last 3, 4 years. And I've slowly been shifting from the lattes to the cortados.
I love it because that is the theme of today's podcast is what we're going to get delving into is not only talking about what it is that you're doing, but we're going to talk a little bit about starting with why, with Ikigai, and how that relates to being a business owner or let's say a product owner. That's just a tidbit in what we're going to talk about. So what is it that you do and why do you do it?
It's a great question, and I love how you framed it. Starting with what is it that I do. So right now I have my own venture along with a founding partner. It's called Venturies Inc. We pride ourselves on being product thinkers, and we like to help other entrepreneurs, entrepreneurs during unlock innovation during the early stage of what we call a product test curve. And we've had long careers. I have had a long career in big companies, small companies, building products. Started off as an engineer, then got into the product management side of things, and really loved the innovation phase of a product journey. So now decided that it's time to really help others who may not have had the experiences, both good and bad. We know what to do in terms of the product test curve, as well as what not to do, more importantly. So that's sort of what we do. That's the what part of it. The why is actually a little more personal journey. Would you like me to get into that?
Yeah, because today we obviously thank you for that. Today we're going to go into everything around product thinking and developing innovation around your product. But you have alluded to there in when you're developing a product, it's always the people behind the product that makes it. So let's start with your story. How did you get to the place that you are now?
Yeah, sure. And you're absolutely right. In terms of building a great product, we are big believers of it's the team, the culture, and starting with the why is very important. That's part of one of the frameworks that we have developed for how you would do product market fit. So now coming specifically, we're like drinking our own Kool-Aid in terms of starting with the why. So as I said, I've had a long career in corporate world, a fairly successful career, and was going through the promotions and the corporate dream. I've been in big companies, small companies. The company got acquired by Cisco and then was in Cisco leading product for a business unit for the longest time. So all good, and I'm also a huge sports fan. I've always loved sports, team sports, as well as sports like tennis, and I run. So back in 2020, just before COVID, I actually had a sort of life-changing event. I suffered a stroke, and yeah, I'm fitter than I've ever been in my life now. That shifted the perspective. And as I alluded, I've incorporated some wellness practices and things like that. It started with very basic physical therapy, OT, and all that, for me to train my brain back to relearn very simple things like walking. However, now it has become proper fitness practice, strength building, running, yoga, meditation, all of that. And that's why I believe I'm fitter than I've ever been. So that was once that incident happened, that really made me kind of embark on an inward journey on, okay, what am I doing here? And then COVID happened, the world stopped, everything around the world changed. So for me, those two things gave me a lot of perspective, and starting to wonder. Earlier, I used to be kind of the typical type A personality who believed that I control a lot of things, but here I could barely walk. The world had sort of stopped. So I didn't control anything. That's what made me realize that. So I really turned inwards and came across this concept of Ikigai, which, if for people who don't know, it's about what you are really passionate about, what you are good at, and what the world needs. And the fourth quadrant is what you can be paid for. So far, I had had my career defined me typically in terms of what I get paid for. That was what I was defined by. Sports, which I was very passionate about, was a separate thing. And I was very good at leadership and product. And then, through some introspection and all of that, launched this venture last year, which is focused on helping other entrepreneurs with product thinking, which is what me and my founding partner, we are really good at. We are both huge sports fans, so we actually incorporate lessons from sports and team sports into building great products. And we even have a podcast called Venturies Stories, where we very regularly talk about things like business is nothing but a team sport, and how you can apply lessons from sports into business and building great products.
I mean, first and foremost, I'm glad that you are the fittest and healthiest, that you've ever been. After something that is, we always think as business owners that we are invincible, that we're never going to get sick and things. And like you said, it was something that was completely out of your control, and you could have made the choice to let that control you and define you for the rest of your life, but instead taken something negative and turned it into a huge positive, and that should always be celebrated and congratulated, because that is not easy.
Yeah, absolutely. What you said there, I recently also read this book called Mindset by Carol Dweck. For those who haven't read it, it is a great book. And what you just said there, embracing the negatives and viewing failures as an opportunity to learn, that's actually a very huge mindset shift. And I think for any entrepreneur, because failure and roadblocks, obstacles are going to be in the path of every entrepreneur. It's not a linear journey. However, the moment you can actually embrace that shift in the mindset, that failure is just success and progress, and it's an opportunity to learn, that goes such a long way. And I actually consider myself fortunate. While it was a big incident where I had to relearn how to walk, however, that gave me so much perspective that if I can't do this, I can do pretty much anything else. So that shifted the mindset completely.
Exactly, I couldn't put it better myself. And you said, obviously, this period of time did give you some time to be introspective, to then figure out your ikigai. What does that process look like? And I want to frame it for a person who may be feeling stuck. They might have had some career where they've had some success in it, but like you said, it wasn't giving them that 100% fulfillment. And how do you go then find what you are passionate about? Because that's always the question, isn't it?
Yeah, and the way I actually look at it, the concept of ikigai is about that it stems from the Japanese secret of a long and happy life. And there's this documentary called Blue Zones, about a region in Japan where people regularly live up to 100 years and live relatively happily. So the concept of Ikigai is really that there are four types of things that we do. If you take any one of us through our journey on this planet, one is a category of things that we are very, very passionate about. Then there are a category of things that we are very good at. Then there is a category of things that we do because the world needs, sort of acts of service. And the fourth is what we get paid for. The way the world functions today, we all define ourselves just by that fourth category. In any social gathering, if anybody asks you, what do you do? We straight away jump to, okay, this is who I am. And that is not very fulfilling at the end of the day for most people. Ikigai is sort of, okay, an intersection of all these four things. However, even if you don't find an intersection, it's not, I would still not say that that's not Ikigai, as long as you're doing one of these four things. That's the concept of when people think, okay, you're retired. You're actually not really retired. As long as you're doing things that you're passionate about, you're doing things that you're good at, you're doing acts of service, you're not really retired. Just because you're not getting paid for something doesn't mean you're retired. And that's what is the secret to a long and happy life. So that's kind of, so find what you're passionate about, what you're good at, and keep doing those things.
And I love that you mentioned that situation where you go to a wedding or you're networking, you're going through an interaction with a new person, and they say, oh, what is it that you do, as a way to identify you and define you. And it was actually Heath Ledger that came out with the really infamous quote where he would actively not ask that question. And instead he would go and ask, are you happy? Which, for a lot of people's defense mechanisms, that's quite hard hitting. But you get a deeper connection, and relationship, and you get far more of information about that person than just the things that they do to get some money for the world, from the world, for example.
Absolutely, totally agree with that. And not like Heath Ledger, but I have also been, ever since I have been on this inwards journey now, I am also very curious when I meet people. I'm not really trying to understand what is it they do for money. I really try to be curious and engage in active listening to really understand, okay, what is it that gets you going? Everybody is passionate about something, actually. And if you really listen, they will open up to you.
Exactly. Now, a lot of business owners, particularly business owners that do listen to this podcast, you'll hear the same story and narrative over and over again. They started a business because they were either solving a pain point for themselves, or it was something that they were passionate about. So they're clearly on this path of Ikigai. But when then, there's one thing of being passionate and being good at certain things, but then how does this then relate to products?
So it is actually a great question. And as I look through my journey as a person in product, in bigger companies, smaller companies, so I was in a big company for the longest time, started as an engineer and grew to the ranks of something called a distinguished member of technical staff, which is a very senior engineer who is supposed to be a deep subject matter expert. But that's when this thing of, okay, why do we do things that we are doing? I was very comfortable doing anything in terms of the technical side of it. Started sort of gnawing at me. And I made the shift to product manager, that, okay, I want to know the business side of things. Why and what is it that's driving us? And then I kind of felt that, okay, now I know why we do things. However, it was a big company, and I did not feel there's this concept of agency that you have, when you're in product, you believe if you have agency or not. So I felt I don't really have the agency here to, I know why we are doing it, but to really make an impact. And I went into a smaller company. I had a blast. We were in the midst of the 4G LTE broadband revolution happening at that time. And eventually that's what got me to Cisco when that company got acquired by Cisco. Cisco is actually a very good company. In the beginning, I did have this sort of feeling about I might not have agency again now that I'll be in a big company. However, the way the setup was, I was in a leadership position. I had a lot of agency being a leader for this particular line of business. And I think, so going back to your question about how do entrepreneurs, so as long as I felt I had a lot of agency and control within a big company, I was actually leading the business for something that was a market leading product in the segment. Eventually, I felt like I maybe did not have enough of an agency. I was passionate about doing certain things. I loved the products that we were working on. And one thing that I would advise for all entrepreneurs, that's actually why people do what they're, entrepreneurship is about trying to claim agency, because you're doing something that you are truly passionate. It's a problem you want to solve for yourself or for customers. So that naturally lends very well to you're going to be passionate about it. You have full control over what you're doing in a way. That's why you have gone down the path of entrepreneurship. So the first part of it, that something that you were passionate about, and typically you've taken up a problem because you're very good at it. So you kind of solved half of the Ikigai equation right there, that you have a lot of agency over this. You're doing it because you are passionate. There's something likely you're very good at. But yeah, stay true to why you're doing it, and the rest will fall in place.
Well, that leads me quite nicely, because you mentioned something there that when a business owner is developing or innovating a problem, they're solving a problem for themselves. But then you just phrased it as, you're solving a problem for your customers.
Mm-hmm.
So there's one thing solving something for yourself and then solving something for your customer. So you got a customer-centric approach.
Mm-hmm.
But what would you say is the number one trap that they could fall into when they are trying to do this problem-solving solution?
Yep. Yeah, that's actually something. So what we talk about on our podcast as well as in our business about product thinking. So typically in tech world, that's those are the entrepreneurs we are helping, and that's what we have worked with over the course of our careers. A common trap is that you fall common trap that you fall for is that you're too much vested in the technology, and then it becomes a solution looking for a problem, and that's very common. You for example, right now everybody's talking about Gen AI. You may have figured out something cool with Gen AI, and you're like, okay, I'm going to build this particular thing, and then go start talking to customers about I built this. However, the trick really is listen to the customers. What is it? What are their pain points? And solve their problems. Start with the why that is behind their emotional needs. And then in that process, your technology may need to actually be iterated over and redone completely. But that's okay. Don't get too attached to the solution. Start with the why, start with the problem, and then you are actually bound to build great products as long as you're clearly passionate. You are a business owner, you're passionate about building something. So that's part of the framework that we have developed for product market fit. Product market fit is actually an over-abused term. There are lots of frameworks which exist out there, and they're all actually great, and a lot of them talk about something similar. However, based on our experience and what we bring to the table, it is always about take the customer-centric approach. Don't get too attached to the solution. Listen to the customer. Then, eventually you will be able to build the great product. It may not be the technology that you started with. You may have to adopt some of the technology, but that's fine.
And you said, I want to get into this framework, but first is it does get battered around where that phrase, "I'm gonna listen to your customers," but that's sometimes easier said than done.
Mm-hmm.
very easy. And how, two-part question. Part one, how do you go about listening to your customers? And two, how do you know if you're not listening to your customers? Because you might be saying, yes, I listen to my customers, of course I listen to them. But what are those symptoms in your business which indicates that you're not listening to your customers?
Yeah, great questions. So the first part on how to listen to the customers. So listening to the customers, of course, normally anytime you will be having conversations with the customers on a regular basis, and customers will tell you a lot of things. However, just and the customer may not necessarily, customers going to be telling you about their immediate feature requirements and things like that. That's not necessarily listening to the customers. I've been in product management all my life, and if you just listen to that part of the conversation with the customer, you will walk away with a long list of features, and there will never be enough bandwidth to develop all of that. And that's the classic feature trap, that you keep building more and more small tweaks to your existing product. That's not innovation. You have to really listen to the why behind the customer. There is a famous quote by Henry Ford that he says, if I had just listened to my customers, I would have built a faster horse, not an automobile. But he was clearly listening to the customers, that they want to go faster from point A to point B. So solve for that bigger problem. It's actually a trick called maybe nested whys. Ask the why 5 to 7 times, and then you'll get to the core why of why you need to do it. That is the trick to really listening to what is the underlying problem behind what the customer wants to do. And that almost always works if you do this nested why.
Yeah, and they have a great story on this as well. Is from actually Steve Jobs. He would always come up when it comes to technology. And when they released the iPhone, they got such criticism, or the developer of it, that it didn't have a stylus on it. It didn't have a keypad on it, because the business users couldn't do email on it. And if he had listened to that criticism, he would have still been building a keypad or a stylus for that time, when actually his journey to creating the iPhone was he was building computers, and he just didn't want to have a computer that was clunky. He wanted a tablet where he could type on the tablet instead of having a keyboard. So their innovation journey, they were innovating the tablet first, and they created the tablet first before they created the phone. But because they did a different route of him trying to solve his problem of making things easy to use, they ended up coming out with a product that completely revolutionized the phone industry. And then the tablet came out like 2 years later.
Yeah, absolutely. Steve Jobs is one of our favorite innovators that we talk about, and we actually talk about in the context of Steve Jobs. Apple clearly builds great products. However, it's not just about technology behind the product. It is actually the way the products appeal to the customer. So that is really the secret of it. It's not just the tech. From a tech perspective, I was at Motorola. Actually, Motorola had built the first phone. At that time, they had worked with Apple also. The first phone with music back then was built before the iPhone came out. However, that didn't really achieve much, versus the iPhone changed the game completely. So it was about not just the tech, but how you are hitting those key pain points and the whys of the customer, which clearly, as you said, Steve Jobs and Apple did a great job of that, and the rest is history, as they say.
Exactly, and I think you really exemplified that. So tell me more about your framework. Take me through your framework that business owners can also follow in your footsteps.
So we've got we've got a couple of frameworks. I'll touch upon the product market fit framework, which is the one that is most helpful for entrepreneurs or intrapreneurs, as we like to call them, innovators in a big company. And the main idea behind this framework is we are big fans of everything in terms of four quadrants. Most people, business-oriented people, are. This one is called PM squared for product market fit. So start with the purpose, start with the why. The first question that you are starting with, it should be about your why. Why does your venture exist? And really drill into it. And why is it you? Why now? All of those questions, start with that. The second part is the second P, which is the product or the problem that you are trying to solve. It is sort of the what question. And then you get into the market, which of course do your TAM, SAM, SOM, all of those analysis. That's the and data oriented part of it. Beyond the data, through all of this, as you're going from the purpose, the product, or the problem, and getting to the market, start thinking of it as a narrative story. People love stories. Human beings, at the end of the day, love stories. So don't just throw a bunch of numbers about market opportunity and don't lead with that. Start building the story. Start with the purpose, product, market, and by then, if you've really honed in on the why, you are starting to build a narrative. And then, of course, the last part, since you're a business owner, it is all about making money. So the last M is money. How does the money, who pays whom? It should be very clear. If you're solving a customer problem in terms of, okay, how the customer pays who pays who, all of that should be very clear. You should have a business plan. That's all part of the money. However, all of that should also really follow through based on what we call organizational narrative, based on purpose, product, market, money. So that's the framework.
Perfect. And what is, again, I'm always looking for the symptoms. So I believe you know, anything we do, when we approach things, we don't necessarily get it right the first time, and that's okay. Yep. You know, there's a reason why we say we do draft 1 and draft 2 and draft 3, because the first time around is literally just to kind of even just get the idea out onto paper. Yep. So using kind of this framework, how can you iterate it so that you create the product that is going to be perfect for market fit, and then how do you know that through all of these iterations, it's you're, I don't want to say complete, but near complete, or ready for market, and know it's good. Basically, it's kosher.
Yeah. So one of the other things that guides everything that we do is this idea of product thinking, and the product thinking at a high level is, okay, have a customer-centric approach, always be focused on business value, and an iterative approach to do this. So any of the frameworks that we use, it's not just one linear journey that start with purpose, product, market, money. It's keep iterating, and with every iteration you will get closer. So that's why starting with the purpose is important. That's what establishes your North Star. So that you are likely, if you find yourself iterating a purpose every single time, something's probably wrong. You really need to have a very clear purpose, starting with the why. Once you establish that, the rest of it, actually, you can keep iterating, refining, and there will be maybe an initial prototype, then a minimal viable product, then a minimum sellable product, then some first beta iteration of a product, and eventually you will have a product that people actually are ready to pay money to you for. That's kind of when you know that. And the classic concept in product market fit is, once you truly achieve the product market fit, you don't have to do as much selling anymore to the customer. The customers come to you. So keep iterating on this till you get to the point where customers actually are now willing to pay you money for it, and you are actually starting to generate leads, not by you being the evangelist for this, but there are others who go out and through word of mouth or through whatever inbound marketing, the people coming to you. That's when you kind of know that, okay, you got your first version. The journey, of course, doesn't stop there, because there will be the next product S curve. If you have to continuously stay innovating, there'll be some new disruption which will come, and then you have to probably iterate through this framework all over again.
I like that what you just said there, and if you've never experienced your product or your service fly off the shelf, it can feel like a cliche.
Yep.
Because so many people say it, and especially I like to say like the Instagram filter as well. They're like, "Hey, we can help you do this," and until you actually feel it, it's almost hard to believe. What I particularly like about how you've just gone through that narrative is you've identified a point in the system where if you're going to take and spend lots of time on it, the time that you should really spend trying to figure out properly is the first stage, the why stage.
Yeah.
Because then everything else will follow far more smoothly and far more easily if you just take that extra time on that first one. Now we're going to be drawing to a close now, but I want to just leave the audience with just one more question, and that is, if you don't know what the why is and you don't know what the purpose is, what is that one exercise they could do that would very quickly find that why for them?
We are huge believers of Simon Sinek's Golden Circle. So I would say, actually, if you are having trouble finding your why, he's got a great TED Talk. It's 18 minutes. You don't have to necessarily read the whole book. Sure, read the book if you have to. However, maybe just watch that 18-minute TED Talk. That itself will spark some ideas in you in terms of the way he goes about with the Golden Circle of why, what, how, and uses an example of Apple selling this versus somebody else. That will spark some thoughts in you on what type of questions you need to be asking yourself on discovering that why.
Yeah, absolutely. Simon Sinek is my favorite. And he put a post out, again, I follow him. He put a post out the other day where he was just like, if you don't know yourself, if you don't know really some of your core values, go and text your 5 closest friends.
Yep.
And say, go and describe me in 3 words. So for example, I've done this exercise quite recently because I think it's quite a good exercise to do periodically. And my 3 that always comes out is bubbly, driven, and empathetic. Those are the 3, and I quite like that. I quite like those 3. When you get words that you like that come back, and you're like, okay, I'm doing 1 or 2 things right here. Yep.
Yeah, totally agree. I think I probably need to do that exercise a little more with pick 5 closest people. I know about the exercise, haven't done it as much. Would love to find out what people tell.
You get busy, you get busy and your life changes and you're slowly adjusting your lifestyle, your habits, your work, your ikigai, you're absorbing different things into your environment. And I had forgotten about it as an exercise for many years as well. And it was only because it happened to come back on my desk again. I was like, I'm going to do this exercise again and see how it's changed. And the bubbly and the driven one was the one that was the common ones that came out again, but it was the more empathetic. Clearly, as I've got older, I've become more empathetic to people, and I was like, I like that.
Yeah, empathy is a key skill for leadership as well as building great products. So it's a great one.
Thank you. Well, on that note, how can people find you? How can people get in touch with you?
So my name is Gaurav Vaid. LinkedIn is probably look me up on LinkedIn. Happy to connect with anybody. And our website is venturiesinc.com, where we share some of these frameworks. And we also have a podcast called Venturies Stories, Navigating the Art of Product Thinking, that's available on most podcasting platforms. So those are a few of the ways of getting in touch. Happy to connect with anybody.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Every guys, do go check him out. Obviously, he's got a wealth of knowledge that will help your product fly off the shelf. That's the ultimate goal that we're trying to achieve here when we're going through all of these different frameworks and going through this journey. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.